Isaac Newton, regarded as one of the greatest scientific minds in European history, is celebrated for his laws of motion and the universal law of gravitation, which fundamentally reshaped the Western world's understanding of physics. Yet, behind the image of this brilliant scientist lies a lesser-known Newton, deeply engrossed in alchemy, biblical prophecy, ancient science, and mysticism. At the heart of these secret passions was his relentless curiosity about the architectural marvels of ancient Egypt, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, alongside the Temple of Solomon, structures he believed held ancient wisdom capable of unlocking the universe's deepest secrets. Newton was captivated by the notion that older civilizations, especially those from Africa, possessed knowledge lost to time, and that uncovering these mysteries could refine his scientific theories and even enable him to predict the future. His journey into the realm of mysticism not only reveals a profound connection between ancient African wisdom and Western thought, but also underscores the influence of Egypt's cultural legacy on even the most eminent thinkers of his era. He viewed the Great Pyramid of Giza as more than an engineering feat. To him, it was an alchemical diagram encoded with sacred measurements that could gauge the Earth's dimensions, thereby bolstering his theory of gravitation. Similarly, Newton was obsessed with the Temple of Solomon, seeing it as a microcosm of the cosmos, reflecting a divine harmony between nature and the sacred. This exploration came to light through his secret manuscripts, discovered in the 20th century, which portray a Newton who was both a scientist and, as economist John Maynard Keynes described, the last of the magicians. These documents, unearthed at Sotheby's in 1936, reveal his tireless quest for universal truth, drawing from the ancient civilizations of Egypt and the Near East. Newton's dual identity as a rational thinker and a mystic highlights how his groundbreaking scientific achievements were intertwined with a reverence for the intellectual and spiritual heritage of Africa's past, challenging the notion that modern science emerged solely from Western roots. Get inspired by the greats. Subscribe to classic quotes that inspire for endless motivation. Before delving deeper into Sir Isaac Newton's journey, it is essential to acknowledge the magnitude of ancient Egyptian innovation. The ancient Egyptians employed advanced geometry to survey land, constructing colossal stone structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza with astonishing precision that continues to be studied in schools today. They observed the movements of stars and planets, developing a calendar system that predicted seasonal changes, profoundly influencing later Middle Eastern and European civilizations. Transporting and positioning multi-ton stone blocks required a blend of organized labor, meticulous logistical planning, and advanced engineering expertise. Some concepts we now term laws of motion may have been practically understood by these ancient builders, a realization Newton later grasped through his studies. These achievements captivated Newton, a man driven to uncover hidden keys to the universe's mysteries. In his 17th century world, it was widely believed that ancient cultures, particularly from Africa, might have discovered knowledge lost to later ages. Newton was convinced that unearthing these secrets could not only refine his scientific theories, such as the law of gravitation, but also reveal the future through structures like the Giza Pyramid and the Temple of Solomon. He saw these edifices as symbols of harmony between science and mysticism, reflecting a sacred wisdom encoded by ancient Egyptians in their architecture. His reverence for Egyptian engineering and mathematics underscores the enduring influence of Africa on global knowledge development, challenging the notion that modern science originated solely from Europe. Newton's fascination was not merely academic. He believed the precise measurements and alignments of the pyramids hinted at a deeper understanding of the cosmos, possibly even predating his own discoveries. This connection is further evidenced by his intensive study of biblical and historical texts, where he sought parallels between Egyptian innovations and the divine patterns he explored in the Temple of Solomon. By recognizing the sophistication of ancient Egyptian intellect, Newton's work bridges the gap between Africa's ancient heritage and the scientific revolution, affirming that the roots of universal truth extend far beyond Western boundaries. Most people recognize Sir Isaac Newton for his foundational contributions to science. The three laws of motion, which explain how objects move and interact under various forces. The universal law of gravitation, asserting that every object in the universe attracts every other with a force proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of their distance. And calculus, co-developed with Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, providing mathematical tools to address rates of change, becoming essential to physics, engineering, and economics. Yet, beneath this illustrious public persona lay a more enigmatic Newton, a fervent alchemist immersed in ancient texts about Egypt and the Temple of Solomon. He believed these writings held the potential to transmute metals into gold or uncover an elixir of life, reflecting the mystical dimension of alchemy, an art he tied to ancient Egypt through the term alchemy, from Kimt, meaning black earth. In Newton's era, alchemy was not merely pseudoscience but a blend of methodical experimentation and a belief in supernatural forces governing nature, laying early groundwork for modern chemistry. This fascination drove him to view the Great Pyramid of Giza as an alchemical diagram encoding the secrets of creation and transformation. Newton was equally captivated by biblical prophecy, particularly from the books of Daniel and Revelation, convinced that the coded numbers and measurements therein, alongside structures like the Temple of Solomon, could predict the end of days. He fused his studies of the pyramid's geometry with clues from Scripture, seeking an ultimate formula to unveil humanity's fate. This interplay of science and mysticism, revealed through his secret manuscripts discovered in the 20th century, portrays Newton not just as a rational scientist but as a seeker of ancient wisdom from Africa and the Near East. His dual nature, celebrated for empirical breakthroughs yet privately delving into the esoteric, highlights a profound connection between his scientific genius and his reverence for the hidden knowledge of antiquity, challenging the simplistic narrative of Newton as solely a figure of the Age of Reason. While some aspects of Sir Isaac Newton's secret life had long been suspected by historians, the full extent of his devotion to alchemy and mysticism only came to light in the 20th century. In July 1936, a metal chest surfaced at Sotheby's auction house in London, containing unpublished handwritten papers, diaries, and laboratory notes penned by Newton. Economist John Maynard Keynes purchased the chest and was astounded by its contents. In Keynes' words, Newton was not the first of the Age of Reason, but the last of the magicians. These newly uncovered manuscripts revealed that Newton was Europe's leading alchemist, secretly conducting experiments and believing he communed with ancient spirits to glean universal insights. This revelation sent shockwaves through the scientific community, offering concrete proof that the father of modern physics also embraced supernatural forces, coded messages, and hidden wisdom from ancient civilizations like Egypt and the Near East. Author Sam Kean, in his work Newton the Last Magician, delved further into these discoveries, describing how Newton, beneath his public persona as a mathematical genius, was consumed by alchemical pursuits. He meticulously studied the measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Temple of Solomon, convinced they held sacred codes tied to cosmic laws, such as his theory of gravitation. Newton saw these structures as bridges between science and mysticism, reflecting the harmony he sought in both nature and scripture. His manuscripts, some of which emerged later at Sotheby's in damaged or partially burned states, detailed his efforts to decode these ancient designs, linking them to biblical prophecy and the potential timeline of Armageddon. This fusion of rational thought and mystical belief, unveiled through these documents, underscores that the influence of ancient Egypt extended beyond engineering to shape Newton's spiritual and scientific aspirations. His secret writings affirm that his groundbreaking contributions to physics were intertwined with a profound reverence for the esoteric knowledge of antiquity, challenging the conventional narrative of Newton as solely a rational scientist and highlighting the deep impact of African wisdom on his quest for truth. One of the most striking elements of Sir Isaac Newton's secret manuscripts is his intense focus on the measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Temple of Solomon. Newton hypothesized that the pyramid's dimensions encoded a special numeric system used by ancient Egyptians to measure the Earth, enabling him to refine his calculations of the Earth's circumference and reinforce his theory of gravitation. He believed the pyramid's astonishing precision hinted at a measurement system tied to broader cosmic truths. Similarly, the Temple of Solomon, as described in biblical texts, loomed large in Newton's imagination. He suspected that its architects had embedded a prophecy, possibly a timeline to the world's end, within its dimensions. To Newton, both structures tapped into an advanced ancient science, and decoding them could unveil humanity's fate. He merged his studies of the pyramid's geometry with clues from Scripture, particularly the books of Daniel and Revelation, in pursuit of an ultimate formula. In a 1704 letter, now housed at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, Newton predicted the world would end in 2060 AD, based on his interpretation of biblical texts and architectural measurements. Further unpublished papers, recently uncovered at Sotheby's, some damaged or partially burned, detail his calculations around the Great Pyramid and suggest he believed ancient Egyptian alchemy held answers to validate his gravitation theory. Manuscript specialist Gabriel Heaton noted that these documents lead directly to the deepest questions Newton was investigating. His relentless pursuit of Egyptian measurement systems and their mystical significance reflects his view of the pyramid and the temple as more than mere constructions. They were, to him, repositories of divine wisdom linking science and prophecy. This endeavor underscores the profound intellectual legacy of Africa, which Newton saw as a source of universal secrets. His work bridges the practical genius of Egyptian engineering with the spiritual dimensions he explored in biblical structures, illustrating how his scientific breakthroughs were inseparable from his reverence for ancient knowledge. Newton's studies affirm that his quest for truth was deeply shaped by the sophisticated heritage of African and Near Eastern civilizations. Sir Isaac Newton's relentless pursuit of ancient Egyptian measurement systems stands as a powerful testament to Africa's intellectual legacy, often overshadowed by Western histories that emphasize Greek and Roman achievements. Newton turned to Egypt for answers to his greatest puzzles, expecting to find advanced geometry embedded in the Great Pyramid of Giza's design, suggesting that ancient Egyptians might have charted the Earth's dimensions. This highlights his deep respect for Egyptian mathematics and engineering, even in his 17th century context when Europe was beginning to assert intellectual dominance. To Newton, these ancient builders were not merely engineers but custodians of sacred wisdom, challenging stereotypes that advanced scientific or spiritual thinking emerged solely from the West. In his view, African Egyptians were key holders of universal secrets, from the precise measurements of the pyramid to the mystical harmony he sought in the Temple of Solomon. Newton's story reminds us that global science, religion, and magic did not evolve in isolation. Europe's breakthroughs during the scientific revolution drew heavily on ideas and texts tracing back to Africa. He regarded the Great Pyramid and similar structures as symbols of the interplay between the practical and the divine, reflecting a knowledge system that transcended geographical boundaries. His secret reliance on Egyptian wisdom, as unveiled through his manuscripts discovered at Sotheby's, affirms the pivotal role of advanced African civilizations in shaping world history. This challenges the modern notion that scientific progress is predominantly a European achievement, illustrating that even at the height of the scientific revolution, Newton revered Africa's ancient heritage. His studies of the pyramid's geometry and the temple's prophetic dimensions reveal a belief in a shared intellectual lineage linking Africa to his own discoveries, such as gravitation. By recognizing the sophistication of Egyptian innovation, evident in their astronomy, architecture, and calendrical systems, Newton's work bridges the ancient and the modern, underscoring how profoundly Africa's legacy influenced his quest for cosmic truth. His reverence for these ancient roots not only enriched his scientific endeavors, but also redefined the narrative of knowledge as a global, cross-cultural endeavor rooted in the wisdom of the past. A captivating aspect of Sir Isaac Newton's alchemical studies centers on the Emerald Tablet, a legendary text believed to unveil the universe's secrets, which many alchemists traced back to ancient Egypt, possibly linked to the mythical figure Hermes Trismegistus, often associated with the Egyptian god Thoth. Newton took it upon himself to translate this text, discovering within it a cosmic philosophy he thought might connect to his concepts of gravity, matter, and universal order. A pivotal line states, "Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing." Some scholars argue this closely mirrors Newton's description of gravity, an unseen force that holds planets in orbit and causes apples to fall. Newton's quest tells a broader tale of cross-cultural influence during an era when Europe was asserting intellectual dominance. Rather than relying solely on Western traditions, one of Europe's brightest minds turned to Egypt for ultimate truths, acknowledging Africa's role in shaping both science and mysticism. He saw the Emerald Tablet as a bridge between Egyptian alchemy and his physical discoveries, illustrating how ideas from ancient Africa permeated the scientific revolution. His secret dependence on Egypt's legacy, revealed through manuscripts unearthed at Sotheby's, underscores that knowledge does not originate from a single continent or culture. Newton's relentless pursuit to decode the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Temple of Solomon, and ancient texts like the Emerald Tablet affirms the profound impact of Egyptian engineering and wisdom on global conceptions of mathematics, science, and cosmology. His translation of the tablet reflects a belief that its principles echoed the natural laws he sought to define, blending the mystical with the empirical. This cross-pollination challenges the narrative of scientific progress as a purely European achievement, highlighting instead a reverence for Africa's ancient heritage even at the height of the scientific revolution. Newton's work bridges the practical genius of Egyptian innovation, seen in their precise architecture and astronomical systems, with his own groundbreaking theories, demonstrating that his scientific legacy was deeply enriched by the intellectual currents flowing from Africa's past into the modern era. Sir Isaac Newton's secret reliance on ancient Egyptian wisdom stands as a powerful testament to how advanced African civilizations shaped world history, challenging the modern view that scientific progress is primarily a European achievement. Newton revered Egypt's ancient heritage, seeing its people not just as skilled engineers but as custodians of cosmic secrets, from the precise geometry of the Great Pyramid of Giza to the profound philosophy of the Emerald Tablet. He believed these accomplishments, such as measuring the earth and encoding harmony between science and mysticism in architecture, could bolster his theory of gravitation and unveil the future through biblical prophecy. His fascination with the pyramid and the Temple of Solomon reflects a conviction that this ancient wisdom transcended mere technique, touching the divine laws governing the universe. Even at the pinnacle of the scientific revolution, Newton acknowledged and honored Egypt's legacy, as revealed through his secret manuscripts discovered at Sotheby's. His unrelenting quest underscores the profound role of ancient Egyptian engineering in shaping global conceptions of mathematics, science, and cosmology. He viewed structures like the Great Pyramid as symbols of the interplay between the practical and the spiritual, inspiring both his alchemical pursuits and physical theories. Newton's dependence on Africa challenges the simplistic narrative of scientific development, affirming that Europe's breakthroughs borrowed heavily from the continent's ancient intellect. By linking ancient measurements to modern discovery, Newton illuminated how Egypt's legacy continued to influence global thought, demonstrating that knowledge is a product of cross-cultural connection, unbound by time or space. His studies, blending the empirical with the esoteric, highlight the sophistication of Egyptian innovation, evident in their astronomy, architecture, and calendrical systems, and its lasting impact on his work. This reverence for Africa's past, seen in his translations of texts like the Emerald Tablet and his decoding of architectural codes, bridges the ancient and the modern, showing that his scientific legacy was deeply enriched by Egypt's intellectual currents. Newton's journey reveals a world where the roots of universal truth stretch across continents, with Africa's ancient wisdom playing a pivotal role in the evolution of human understanding. Sir Isaac Newton's unrelenting quest to uncover ancient Egyptian wisdom underscores the critical role of African engineering and knowledge in shaping global conceptions of mathematics, science, and cosmology. He revered the ancient Egyptians as masters not only of construction but also of cosmic understanding, evident in the precision of the Great Pyramid of Giza and the philosophy of the Emerald Tablet. Newton believed the pyramid's measurements could tie to the Earth's circumference, reinforcing his theory of gravitation, while the Temple of Solomon encoded divine laws he sought through Scripture. This blend of practicality and spirituality, revealed through his secret manuscripts at Sotheby's, shows he viewed Egypt as a wellspring for both alchemy and physics. By translating the Emerald Tablet, Newton uncovered a philosophy of universal force akin to his concept of gravity, illustrating how ancient Egyptian ideas permeated modern science. His pursuit challenges the notion that the scientific revolution was a solely European product, affirming that African intellect played a pivotal role in the evolution of global knowledge. He recognized that these ancient civilizations did not develop in isolation but were part of a cross-continental web of ideas, from astronomical observations to intricate architecture. Newton's reliance on Egypt's legacy, reflected in his studies of the pyramid and temple, illuminates how Africa shaped his scientific and mystical thought. This journey not only enriched Newton's discoveries but also asserts that knowledge is a product of cultural interplay, with Egypt's ancient heritage continuing to resonate in modern understandings of the universe and its governing laws. His work bridges the empirical precision of Egyptian engineering, seen in their calendrical systems and monumental structures, with his own groundbreaking theories, highlighting a shared intellectual lineage. Newton's reverence for Africa's past, as he decoded architectural secrets and biblical prophecies, reveals a world where universal truth emerged from diverse roots. His legacy, intertwined with Egypt's contributions, demonstrates that the foundations of science and cosmology owe much to the sophisticated wisdom of ancient Africa, transcending time and geography to influence humanity's grasp of the cosmos and its underlying principles. What lessons did you, the viewers of What Sir Isaac Newton Knew About Ancient Egypt, take away from this video? Newton's journey offers a profound perspective on the interconnectedness of civilizations and the value of humility in seeking knowledge. He, an icon of the scientific revolution, fearlessly turned to ancient Egypt for truth, from the precise geometry of the Great Pyramid of Giza to the enigmatic philosophy of the Emerald Tablet. Does this suggest to you that knowledge isn't confined to one culture or era but is a product of historical interplay? Newton shows that pride in modern achievements might cause us to overlook the rich legacy of the past, and learning from those who came before, like the ancient Egyptians, can propel us forward. Did you sense his boundless curiosity as he ventured beyond the law of gravitation into alchemy and biblical prophecy, blending reason with intuition? Does this inspire you to broaden your own thinking, perhaps bridging different fields in your life? And when he likened himself to a boy playing on the seashore before the vast ocean of truth, did it strike you that no matter how much we achieve, there's still so much more to explore? The video highlights how ancient Egyptian wisdom, with its engineering and cosmic insight, profoundly influenced modern science, prompting you to reflect. Are we willing to learn from all sources, regardless of their origin, with gratitude and persistence? Newton's path encourages you to approach knowledge with an open mind, recognizing that universal truth lies in the connections between cultures, from antiquity to today. His reverence for Egypt's legacy, revealed through his secret manuscripts, bridges the ancient and modern, suggesting that every discovery builds on a shared human heritage. So, what did you take from this? Perhaps it's an invitation to embrace curiosity, humility, and an appreciation for the diverse roots of understanding. Seeing how the ancient Egyptians Newton admired laid groundwork that still resonates in our grasp of the universe and its laws. In the dim glow of candlelight, Sir Isaac Newton sat hunched over a desk piled high with manuscripts, his quill scratching fervently against parchment. The year was 1690, and Newton, already a revered scientist, was engrossed in a different kind of pursuit, one that extended beyond mathematics and physics into the hidden wisdom of ancient civilizations. Among the many books that littered his study, one held a special place: John Greaves' Pyramidographia, a detailed account of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Newton believed that within the proportions of the pyramid lay a divine mathematical code, one that, if deciphered, could reveal the exact dimensions of the Earth and further validate his law of universal gravitation. He was convinced that the ancient Egyptians, through some lost knowledge, had embedded sacred geometry into their architectural marvels, encoding secrets that even the greatest minds of Europe had yet to uncover. One evening, as he pored over Greaves' measurements of the pyramid's base and height, Newton made a startling realization. The pyramid's dimensions seemed to align with his calculations of the Earth's circumference, leading him to suspect that the Egyptians might have used a unit of measurement based on the Earth's size. Excited, he rushed to compare these values with biblical texts describing the Temple of Solomon, another structure he believed held divine proportions. For weeks, Newton labored in solitude, recalculating, adjusting, and verifying his findings. He sent inquiries to scholars in the Royal Society, seeking more precise measurements of the pyramid. Though his contemporaries viewed the Great Pyramid as little more than a relic of a bygone era, Newton saw it as a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern science. But his obsession with the pyramid was not merely academic, it was also deeply personal. Newton believed that these ancient structures could serve as a key to predicting the future, much like the cryptic biblical prophecies he studied in secret. If the measurements of the pyramid held encoded knowledge of the cosmos, could they also reveal hidden truths about time itself? Could they, perhaps, confirm his suspicions about biblical chronology and the fate of humanity? Newton's quest for truth led him down a path that few of his peers understood. He was not only a man of reason but also one of mysticism, drawn to the idea that science and the divine were intertwined. His secret manuscripts, discovered centuries later, would unveil the extent of his belief in ancient Egyptian knowledge as a cornerstone of his own discoveries. Though Newton never completed his study of the Great Pyramid, his work hinted at a profound truth. Knowledge is not the sole possession of any one civilization or era. Just as the apple falling from a tree led him to the law of gravitation, the ancient wisdom encoded in the stones of Giza had inspired one of history's greatest minds to rethink the very nature of the universe.